All right, so I'm here with Vince Broglio. The G is silent, right?
Yep. Perfect.
Oh, let's try that again. We lost some foam there. All right, is it Broglio?
Yeah, Broglio.
The G is silent.
Yes.
This is a VB Surfboards, right?
Yeah, VB surfboards, kiteboards, foil boards.
And what do you have here? This thing looks sick.
This is 4.6, 21 by 4 1/4, a 55-liter range. For the guys that want something really performance, that for winging, and then low volume if you wanted to prone paddle it too. Kind of do a little combo with it.
Oh, sweet. Oh, you can prone it. Can you pick it up and show it to us?
Yeah.
Dude, look at this thing. Look at that sick colors and shape. It looks so good.
Then get the rails on there.
Okay, yeah. So what do you call this kind of rail?
That one I just do for guys that are trying to prone paddle it. It's a nice rail to grab onto. You got a nice little lip there. Something to grab onto.
Okay.
That I'll do on some of the boards, not all of them.
Okay.
But you kind of lose a little bit of volume when you're putting in that rail.
Nice. And I noticed the bottom's like fairly flat, right?
So I use 0 concaves in it. Real low rocker with a lot of V in it. So up in the nose you can tell kind of V. Then you come in here, just a lot of V. Then it kind of flattens out a little bit here too.
Yeah.
And then, so that's just, the board's going to release really quick.
Yeah, I'm huge on the flat bottom, fast board. Like, that's all I want. Especially, so this thing, you think it's like 55 liters?
Yeah, it's about 55
So
liters.
that's, for me, that's really pushing the limits, especially like light wind. If it's windy, no problem. But like, I've noticed like when I get down past 60 liters at 200 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Getting it up, you know, so I need it to start going right away. Yeah.
These things are super lightweight too, so that's another factor that, you know, is going to get moving quicker too, the lighter the board.
I picked this thing up and I think it weighs like half what my board weighs. Do you know what it weighs, like off the top of your head? Or
I want to say this one is probably 7.5 to maybe 8. Probably maybe 8 pound range.
8 pounds?
Yeah.
That's great. So I was at Sherman yesterday, and I was Alex Mertens was there, and Taylor Baum, and they were throwing like, you know, forwards and, you know, back. Yeah. Throwing like a flip with like a heavy board.
Oh yeah.
Is terrifying because your foil already weighs like 15 pounds or something, right? Yeah. So I definitely need like a lighter board for that.
And it just it amazes me that there's not anybody really doing a high performance board out there. There's a few. There's, you know, your local shapers that are into the foiling and stuff. You know, Amundsen and those guys. Kind of like surfing. You got a big heavy log, it's heavy to turn. You know, I hear a lot about you got to go shorter with your board for swing weight. This, you can go a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, and have less swing weight as your pop outs.
Yeah, and we're seeing with like some of these downwinding boards, they're going longer again now, but it's super light is the key. The problem, so there's a reason I haven't bought a new board, right? I'm riding this board that I've had to repair so many times. It's waterlogged. It weighs like 16 pounds, like no joke. And like the only reason I haven't bought a new board is because there's not a board out there that is lightweight, good shape, and strong rails. Yeah. It doesn't exist. Like, it doesn't. Like, all right, so the shape looks awesome right off the bat.
Thank you.
But, like, honestly, I think the coolest thing to me is this thing looks like it rips. It looks like a surfboard. Like, maybe you could, like, hold it up, like, and just, like, straight up and down. And let's see, pull out here.
Yeah.
Like, this thing just looks killer. Like, okay, so, like, my pet peeve on, like, a lot of wing boards is they kind of look stupid.
Yeah.
Like, they look like boxes or, like, little dump trucks or something.
Which, I mean, some of the theory behind that, like, I have one right here. It's, you get this squared off. And actually, this one, the nose is wider than the tail. So what that is for is when you're taking off, trying to pump your board, a lot of times you'll sink the front end. So I try to keep the front end a little bit puffier, a little bit more foam up there, so you're not gonna pearl it so much.
This just looks so good. It looks like a surfboard. It looks like it rips, and it's so light. Like, that's one of the lightest boards I've picked up.
Oh wow!
And you're telling me these rails are are strong.
Yeah, and you got strength on these guys. About 11 ounces of carbon, fully wrapped. And then you have 8 ounces of S-glass, fully wrapped. I'll bring the lap, I do the bottoms first. I bring the lap all the way up to the deck line. So you got a really good strong rail there. Boards bust, surfboards, kiteboards, they start from the rail inward. Anytime you're going to bust a board, that's just going to start on the rail. So I've been building boards for almost 40 years, and I've always done a really big, heavy lap just to keep the boards from breaking.
I think that's so important, especially as people start to do more freestyle stuff. I also think this like rail design, what's like more rounded and then come off, I think it's better than the flat. The flat rails, I think, are prone to breaking and delamming. I think this is probably a stronger,
and it's just going to release a little bit better too. Pros and cons about the whole thing. To me, when I'm making a board, it has to have a good look to it. Anybody could just do a block and go and get up and get foiling on it, and it'll work. But you know, how fast is it going to get up on plane? You know, swing weight, turning. This is why I've always done the chime back in here to keep the rails out of the way when you're doing turns.
Well, you know, I'll test that out because I turn really hard, and I often touch down, especially when I'm doing like a fast tack. I touch down.
Right.
So we'll see if that allows me to sort of pop off the water. It looks awesome. I can't wait to try it out. Where can people look you up and get these boards? Like, how do they order them?
Yeah, you can look me up on the website, VB Surfboards, and that'll come up with my website, contact information on there, and you can see the different boards I make, from surfboards, kiteboards, and foil boards. And if you don't, like I always say, if you don't see something on there that you like, contact me and we can work out something, like whatever you want. That's this board right over here. The guy wanted something special, so yeah, we just sat down and worked out on some templates and width and thickness, and went with it.
Is it going to cost more than like a production board, or?
Maybe a hair cheaper, or about the same.
Awesome.
And then you're getting something made with quality. I back my boards.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the info. Can't wait to test it out.
I can't wait to see you.
All right. Vince shapes out of Santa Cruz, and I was up there for a big old south swell that was coming through. Surfline calling for 8 to 10 foot waves at a couple of spots. That's Scotts Creek. This is Davenport, where most of the windsurfers and wingers go out because it's a little easier to get out in the channel. There's 2 different breaks there, and there's a way out in between them. This is the first windsurfer sort of scoping it out. He was the first to go out, and you can see some of those big swells coming in, some of the bigger sets. On the south swell, it wasn't like huge waves all the time, but there would be these sets that came in that were just massive. This is the rigging area. You see some of the windsurfers relaxing after a little bit later whenever people have been out. Over on the right side, that's the big right, which you can ride. Nice, good wave over there. And then on the left, you have the left. And that thing's a little sketchier because if you crash, you get pulled into a reef. Out there in the top left, you can see this small little sail. That's a windsurfer. That gives you a little better perspective on how big these waves really were. I put Vince's board next to my Axis Froth 65 liter. You can see that there's a lot less volume in the tail, but it was also thinner, which made it feel a lot more connected under my feet. I rigged the board with my 5.0 pinion and Viper 150 because I had the bigger sail because it wasn't like super windy just yet, and I want to make sure I could get up on that 55 liter board. So Davenport was easy to get out even on the big surf, but there was a couple of downsides. The biggest one being that there was a pretty massive wind shadow coming over the cliffs, especially when the wind's really north. And you can see I'm sort of sinking on this board. I could paddle it very easily because it's a prone board. It paddled really well, but I did have to paddle for a while and then, you know, get on my knees and sink for a while. Then when the wind started coming, you see the board pops right up to the surface of the water. When there's no wind, then I start sinking down a little bit, and I'm really quite far under the water at 200 pounds. But then the wind, and boom, you pop right up. So this is the first time I tried getting up. I get my right foot up and sort of put it in the foot strap to get a little more control. It was actually like less squirrely than my 65 liter because it was under the water. But then once I get it to the surface, it immediately wants to run. Here I am just sort of trying to get a feel for the board and like what it wants to do. But once I had enough wind, it got going pretty well. that was my first try ever to get up on the board, and I got up pretty quickly, and in really big chop, don't forget, and really gusty wind. There was really gusty wind here. If it had been steady wind, I would have been right up straight away. So here is a little bit later on when I was more comfortable with the board, and you see me pop up to my knees. I'm underwater. I lift the wing that's getting some power. I wait for a better gust. Then I get my right foot up at some point. There it is. Once my right foot's up and I have power, I pop up and boom, the board just wants to run. It really is so fast and so light, it just pops up. So the other downside at Davenport was the seaweed. So here you can see how bad the seaweed is on this Rayleigh I do later on. Look again really closely. I was like, why did I not go very high? Why did I fall? That was weird. But if you look at the slow-mo and you look at my foil, once I'm up in the air, there's a massive amount of seagrass. There was so much seagrass. It was so annoying. And here you can see one of the windsurfers cruising down one of the big waves, and that thing's about to break and be a massive wave. I got a 6 to 8 foot for sure. Another one's heading up on the outside. These swells were sick when they started breaking. It definitely took me a minute to get used to the board. It's a lot smaller. It's a lot lighter. I just guessed on the foot strap and foil position. I actually had the foil a little bit too far forward because the board is so light, it didn't pull down the nose as much. So I was a little bit uncomfortable when I was on this first session with the black wing. But that wasn't going to stop me from trying to ride some bombs. Even though my foot straps were a little loose and the foil was a little far forward, I had to go for it. I wasn't going to go in and, re-rig. So here I am on the first big wave of the day. I'm actually on a wave right now. It's just really far out and hasn't broken yet. And it's really big. I mean, this was at least 6 to 8 feet, maybe bigger. I'm just cruising down. You can see the seagrass again, and now it starts breaking. It's breaking all around me. It's breaking on the right of me. It's breaking on the left. I'm trying to go really fast and sort of keep going to the left, but I think I got some seaweed and slowed down there, and I end up getting hit by this wave, and my foot's stuck in the strap, and it still was pulling me so hard. It was kind of sketchy, to be honest. I thought I was going to break my foot. So I was riding my 82 mast, even though it was big swell, because I want to do freestyle too. And you'll notice here, I touched down a few times on this run, and it didn't slow me down very much. Right there, boom, I touched down, but boom, I'm back up, and boom, same thing. That tail, I really do think it just pops off the water. I think if I was on my other board, it would have really slowed me down and maybe even got me off foil if I did those little touchdowns. I think that shape really does actually work. Here's another example where I think the shape really helped me. I'm going out, I see a big wave coming, and I do a fast tack just to get around. I don't have the luxury of doing a perfect tack. I'm down off foil, but then boom, I'm right back up on foil. Even though this is a tiny 55-liter board, I touch down on my tack, and I'm immediately back and popped up, and now I'm ready to hit this wave and start riding it. So here you go. Start at some point here. There it is. Now I'm on the wave. I was on the wave sort of the whole time, but it hadn't really broken yet. I was sort of waiting for it to catch up to me. And then, boom, I'm flying down the face. Really going fast on this one. And let's see how long this ride goes. I think it goes for a while. Carving, trying to dodge that seaweed there. I touched down there, but, I'm still on foil because it really just pops up again. Touchdown, but yep, still on foil. I think I ride this one all the way in. This is maybe when I went in to switch wings because it started getting a little windier and I wanted to see if I could ride a smaller wing on this board. Yeah, I rode this thing all the way in pretty much. There's a little breaker at the end and then I just don't want to hit the ground with the board. And Slava was out there riding some swell. We had done a big downwinder a couple of weeks ago from Waddell to 4 Mile. Every time I saw him, I'd try and do a little something, but I really wasn't going off. I didn't feel so good. I had a weird headache from being up at Sherman. I think something kicked off my sinuses up there. And then the wind was super gusty, and my wings are already bagged out because I've been using them so much, overpowered, and they're just, they're not Alula, so they're all bagged out. I don't have a lot of pop out of them. And then, you know, I've been working on this backwinding trick with Luca. You go do like an upwind 360 from being backwinded. I haven't landed it yet, but Luca did one with a grab, like the first time we tried the trick, which was pretty awesome. One problem with the 55-liter board at 200 pounds, it's much harder to land the tricks. Like, you just don't have the board to be forgiving. You know, you have to land perfectly. So I didn't land any flacos. But Rayleighs were no problem. I was getting some nice Rayleighs off of those big waves, and I wasn't even like really boosting because you know, he told me I wouldn't break the board, but I'm scared jumping over 10 feet and landing hard on 200 pounds on an 8-pound board. But yeah, it held up well. In fact, when I was coming in the first time, you know, I was like all the way to shore, and I wasn't really thinking about waves anymore or being in any danger zone, but you see this little thing sneak up on me, and the waves just started sucking me out, and I actually got rolled like pretty bad, like literally 1 foot from the beach. I just got smashed. Like, it wasn't even like a wave, it was like the suction of the ocean and then the wave coming in. But I thought for sure the board would be scratched up or messed up. But when I got in, there wasn't even a scratch on the board, which blew my mind because I had dragged it all over the sand. Don't tell Vince. All right, I just did the first run on Vince's board. It's really nice, so light. Definitely had no trouble getting up at all when there was wind. It wants to get up really fast. It's so light that once you start getting any speed, it just pops up. I don't know that it would work in LA for me, but it's really tempting to ride this thing all the time. It's so small. Like, I did a couple of Rayleighs and the board just so easy to get up in the air. Man, I gotta change a couple of things around. I'm not used to riding such a small board, and it's huge conditions out there. I got on a couple of really big waves and pretty gnarly. But it's super gusty. It's really gusty. I'm not really digging the wind. But the waves are incredible. So I rigged up my 4-meter. I wanted to see if I could get going on the smaller wing. Plus, it was like really strong in the gust. I moved my mast back a centimeter. I tightened up the back foot strap. This time I just paddled. Like I said, it paddles really good because it's like a prone board. You can really paddle that, even though it's not that much volume. I did a couple of more flaca attempts, but still unable to land them. Easier to get around with the 4, but you know, I was getting pretty tired. I'd had a pretty big day at Sherman the day before. I'd been out there for a few hours, and like I said, it was massive conditions. I'd been worked by a few big waves. Here's another example of how well the board restarts. Look here, I come off foil here, and then as long as there's any power in the wing, I'm just like, whoop, right back on foil. And I have some thoughts about why. You may have noticed earlier, there's no grab handle on the bottom of the board. I think it actually makes a huge difference in terms of getting up on foil because you don't have any turbulence under the bottom of the board. And because of those rails that Vince has installed, you can grab around the board and carry it. And since the board only weighs like 8 pounds, you really don't even miss the grab handle. It's really easy to carry just with the rail, or you put it on your shoulder. But honestly, it's easier to carry than my board with the grab handle. And I'm not like a huge proponent of crazy tails. I never have been, but maybe there is something to this chine tail making it easier to get started faster. It seemed to work. At the very least, it definitely seemed like it improved the touchdown restarts. All right, so I just got off the water, had Davenport, got really gusty and the swell kind of went away and kind of wasn't so good toward the end there, but the first part of the session was really awesome. Dude, this board is probably my favorite board I've ridden yet. It's insanely light. When I did a couple of Rayleighs, like just flicking that board up in the air was so easy. It was too small for me, right? I'm 200 pounds right now. I felt heavy today. And then this thing is like 55 liters. It's too small. But it was windy, and then as soon as I started to go at all, it would just lift up so fast because it didn't weigh very much. You know, it's so light, and the bottom shape is really good. What other things did I like? I actually had to move the mast a little bit back after I went out the first time. Normally I have a problem with the mast tracks being too far back, but this was okay. I would still like it probably a little bit farther forward, but it ended up being pretty good. I had to move it back just a little bit. Other things.
Oh, whenever you touch down with this board, it just pops right back up. It really doesn't want to nose down and go under the water. It really pops back off really well off the water. It's just a great board. I'm gonna have to get one. I was really tempted to take this one back to LA, but I think I would regret it at 200 pounds and LA's light winds. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm probably gonna get one because it's really nice. It's a really nice board. Definitely check them out. I highly recommend these boards. I did a couple of big jumps too, and it seemed to hold up pretty well. We'll see. At 8 pounds, I don't know if it can take a big dog jump in over and over again, but it seems pretty strong.